Hi, Abdullah. Thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to meet you, and also congratulations on completing the Accelerator program.
Thank you, Faris. I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure to be part of the program.
I would like to ask you, Abdullah, a few questions about your studio and upcoming plans, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, please.
Can you shed, please, some light? Can you shed some light around the Accelerator, your experience with the Accelerator, also your time there, and also what do you miss most about your time with the Accelerator?
Yeah, I mean, I think just being around similar-minded founders was the best part of it. I mean, we had some great mentors along the way, of course. There was a lot to gain from it, but seeing a bunch of people that are all kind of facing similar challenges, we're all building something similar, it's very hard to come up with an experience like that, because whether it's business-related, finance, game design, it was just so many things where from day to day, week to week, everybody had different challenges, everybody was helping each other. I think that was a very special, it was a very special experience to be a part of something like that.
Great, great. And how has the move to Saudi influenced your growth and direction so far?
Yeah, I would say the most thing it's impacted is access. So, for example, now we're actually talking to the Esports Federation potentially about an integration with Copa Fantasy. These are the kinds of things where even in our industry, which is just so tech heavy, it doesn't compare to being there on the ground and actually talking to people in person, coming up with these kinds of things. We have a number of things we're discussing with Mirak also about other potential opportunities and partnerships with others. I think it's just so beneficial to be there and just directly go and talk to people. The amount of things happening in Riyadh especially is just, it's amazing to see.
Great. So are there any new opportunities that have emerged for you since completing the Accelerator?
Yeah, so actually our full launch was one day after the demo day. So the timing was perfect for that because the football season was starting right at that time. So we had the full launch with a lot of kind of really great, the traction has been really positive so far. So we've had over 100,000 users on the games in this last 2 months. And within that, there's, within our freemium model and converting into paid. And I think it's been very, very positive. But the main things for us there is just continuing to push forward with this launch, focusing on the platform, scaling it. And now we're also potentially exploring something for the upcoming Esports World Cup. That's also one of the things that we benefited from being there. So we're working on a number of things to come in the coming weeks and months.
Inshallah. So looking back, when you set out to build a football super app for the MENA region, how did you identify the gap between traditional fantasy sport offerings and what your audience demanded?
Yeah, so I mean, actually, the funny part is I've played the traditional fantasy games, like the Fantasy Premier League game, for over 15 years. So they're great. I love them. I've always been a huge kind of hardcore fan when it comes to those. But it also means I've kind of noticed what was missing specifically for people like us, for this kind of users in the MENA region and KSA in particular. So, for example, the games tend to be season long in the traditional games. So people can drop off over a couple of weeks. That's one of those things that it's a struggle to keep people coming back. So that's why our games are weekly with contests that has prizes every single week. But then also beyond that, we're covering multiple leagues instead of just being one league on its own. And our freemium model, I think it's more encouraging for users from the region to try it out, give it a taste, and then you see if you want to participate in some of the more premium contests. And then, from a slightly different angle of what the others that have tried to do this in the region, but kind of where they've failed, is I think there's a product design and gameplay experience when it comes to pricing the players. How do you kind of give the user experience, the first time user experience, competition structure, prizes, that I think we're really trying to nail on our end, like giving away signed jerseys by football players and the kinds of things that people want to see. So there's a lot of things there. And I think we're kind of trying to bring together a version of this model that will be more catered to the KSA user and the MENA region as a whole.
Good, Abdullah. Since that you've achieved like over 1 million contests played and players with different languages, how do you localize experience for different segments while keeping the ecosystem cohesive?
So the beauty of football is that it's universal. It's actually not that complicated to do. Yeah, you want some of the player names to be in English and Arabic. You want the experience to be proper Arabic first, like right to left, etc. All of these things are really important, but they're actually not that major. Where it becomes very interesting is, since the platform, the way we've built it is it's very universal. It fits everyone. The question is actually more, how do you engage them and how do you maintain them within your platform? And so for us, localization is actually more about the marketing and the engagement. How are we communicating with the users? So what are we sending to them? When are we trying to interact with them? On which platforms? That's really the only difference between us attracting a user from America, let's say, versus a user from Saudi versus a user from Egypt or anywhere around the world. We have some of all of them playing, and they can play it on the English or the Arabic version. And also they have multiple leagues to play in. So we know the Saudi users may be more likely to be interested in the Saudi league, while an Egyptian user more likely on the English league. But the point is that since the platform allows for all of them, it just becomes about marketing and actually communicating with them the right way.
Clear. So as you know, Abdullah, sport timing is very critical. So how do you plan your roadmap around major sports moments? And how do you manage off-season engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. So every round runs as usual. So whether there's kind of big matches or there's a small kind of, if there's a slowdown, since every round is separated into a contest, it runs as normal. But what happens then is when we have bigger matches, we know the buzz kind of builds up. So for example, just recently, there was the Clásico Barcelona versus Real Madrid. All you need to do is just a little bit of a push from a marketing and a prizes perspective. So for example, if we're giving away something like a signed Lamine Yamal jersey or a signed Vinicius jersey around the time of that match, that's what really kind of blows it up and makes a lot of people want to come in at that time. So these are the little tweaks that we do. And then when you think of it kind of more like off season, we're actually in a really interesting position now where going forward, there won't be any more off season. So for example, this upcoming summer, there's going to be the World Cup, and then directly we're into the new season. Following that, there's going to be Copa America. After that is the Euros. After that's the Club World Cup. So actually every summer is covered. So we're going to be reaching a period where we won't have that downtime. But just to kind of amplify that even more, one of the things we're planning to do is build a new game, a trivia game. And that's going to be perfect, sort of not just off season, but between the rounds. So if matches are taking place from Thursday to Saturday or Thursday to Sunday, and the next one is the next, let's say, Tuesday or Wednesday, in between those days, we can run trivia contests that keeps people engaged. And we actually make now a perfect sort of football gaming platform, but also a football super app, which is what we're looking to build, that keeps them playing at all times, whether it's pre-match, during match, or post-match.
Since that you mentioned trivia, are you like focusing on each league, the trivia for each league?
Yeah, so the way we would plan to do the trivia is per league, also per country, also international versus club football. The truth is there, it can start with something very simple, and then you can break it down into any kind of topic based. So anything users like to compete over, we can create sort of trivia contests about.
Okay. So are you currently facing any challenges that are limiting your growth and potential?
I would say maybe not necessarily challenges. It's more like at this stage, we have a lot of things going really well, and it's about scaling it. So scaling and money is our next big, if you want to call it, it's the next big challenge or hurdle that we have. Simply because I think our unit economics is checking out now. I think we really have established product market fit, and I think we have a solid user experience that people are interacting very well with. Now we just need to scale that up. So that's scaling it up through having a larger team so we can build more faster, but then also so we can push even more on marketing and prizes. So growth capital is really, really important now for us so that we can go from 100,000 users to 1 million to 10 million, because the truth is that just in the MENA region, there are tens of millions of sports fans. And then we have ambitions to grow beyond just MENA and to go global. And that's going to be kind of our next big step.
Okay, clear. For our last question, Abdullah, if you could go back when you founded the studio, what piece of advice would you give yourself now about scaling a young game studio in the MENA region?
That's an interesting question, because we actually started working on this around 7 or 8 years ago. So me and my brother. And I think the first thing that I can remember is at the time when this started to come up, our first thought was, okay, we need to do this quickly. We need to do this fast. It's like we don't have time. Otherwise, we're going to run. This opportunity is going to run away. And I think what we realized is I think you have a lot more time than you tend to think in the moment. You're actually much better off being patient, building it over time, building it the right way. I know MVP and build it fast are sort of the buzzwords that are out there, but I actually think it's quite the opposite. Like, for example, for us 2 years in, or around 2.5 years in, we decided to scrap the development entirely and rebuild it again. And I think that turned out to be one of the better decisions we made, that maybe if we were a little bit too worried about trying to build fast and build an MVP, we may have actually done that the wrong way. So I think number one thing I would have told myself is you actually have a lot more time than you think. And also things take a lot more time than you think. So yeah, just say, to be patient.
Thank you, Abdullah. I covered all my question. I wish you all the best, inshallah. Good luck.
Thank you.